We're on now to our big exclusive story for tonight. At just 14 years old, GHOne is the first person in Ghana to be diagnosed with Wilson's disease. This rare condition causes the body to retain excessive copper and affects about 1 in 30,000 people worldwide. However, in African countries like Ghana, people like Mark and their caregivers face a tough reality. Many medical professionals here do not know much about these rare diseases, leading to a lot of wrong diagnosis and endless struggles to get the right treatment. GHOne News' Nadima Umar Uthman has more in this special report.
At first glance, 14-year-old Mark GHOne appears like any other regular teenager. But upon a closer look, one would notice something unusual in Mark's body movements. Mark is the only person in Ghana diagnosed with Wilson's disease, a rare genetic disorder that threatens to paralyze him. Faustine GHOne says at 10 years old, her son frequently stumbled while walking and suffered throat swelling. But what alarmed her the most was when her son's writing skill went from this to that.
Oh yeah, Korabia, Mauna, 190 fine, one delay or from.
At first, I thought he was acting out as some teenagers do, but I observed further and noticed my son was not pretending. He really could not write. At a point, I even accused his teachers of not giving him ample time to finish his assignments. But on one occasion, I went to the school, took a photo of the homework on the board, came home and asked him to write. He held the pen, but couldn't write anything.
As Mark grew, so did the disease and its accompanying symptoms, subjecting him to stigmatization.
Headmaster started to need Sakorani, a special child.
Some of the teachers even went as far as mimicking my son for the other students to laugh. Even the head teacher began to call him a special needs child, which I did not take kindly to.
He now struggles to articulate what he wants to say.
Like, I'm for bomba. Like some for bomba screaming.
Oh, okay. This is one of the symptoms of Wilson's disease. Mark and his family have gone through a long debilitating diagnostic journey, which is very common in resource-constrained settings like Africa.
In our frustration, we sought the services of traditional healers, but most of them absconded with our monies after their failed attempts. Before this diagnosis, we have been to over 5 hospitals, but all without answers. We have really struggled.
The quest for a diagnosis has financially burdened the family of 5, relying on meager income from masonry work and petty trading. 6 months ago, they finally received a diagnosis at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Their only son had excess copper retention in his brain and liver.
I cried like I've never done before. Copper? How did this happen? And to make matters worse, doctors from the country's top hospitals were telling me this kind of disease cannot be treated in Ghana. My head was spinning, and I had so many questions with no answers.
Copper is present in many foods, but the human body requires only small amounts. However, for those with Wilson's disease, the surplus copper leaves the bloodstream and accumulates in various organs and structures such as the brain, spinal cord, eyes, liver, and kidneys. Professor Eben Baidu is the head of neurology and developmental services at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
If you don't treat him, he can die.
Penicillamine, a medication, is known to slow down the progression of the disease, but cannot provide a complete cure. Mark will require this drug daily for the rest of his life, and it comes with a cost of around 150 cedis each day.
My son's condition has affected our finances so much that taking care of his two other siblings has become a challenge.
According to the research group, the Health Policy Partnership, rare diseases affect up to 400 million people across the world, and for many, there are no treatment options available. In Ghana alone, this translates to an estimated 3 million people living with rare diseases. Professor Baidu says the hospital is seeing more cases of rare disorders like Wilson's disease than in the past. However, in a country with limited health infrastructure, most patients and caregivers are left with uncertainties regarding available treatment options, costs, and accessibility. Available research indicates that at least 80% of rare diseases have an identified genetic origin. Professor Baidu says that as more genetic cases are being recorded, Ghana must start investing in the field of genetics.
These are huge investments. They are not like setting up a lab, doing a blood count and the usual that we all have. So it's a lot of money. If we are moving forward as a country, then we cannot stay behind the technology, because that is where we are. Accuracy is always required. I mean, we need to go beyond, witchcraft, somebody has done this to you and that's why you have this strange thing. Things can be explained.
But while patients and caregivers wait for these investments to be made, the first group of genetic counselors, the only one of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa, is being trained at the West African Genetic Medicine Center. Professor Solomon Oforiakwa is the founding director.
They are very important for genetic health, because whereas we can send samples abroad, the basis for why somebody has a disease to be determined, you can't export the results to a family locally. And so it's important that we train genetic counselors locally. I consider genetic counselors probably to be the most important in terms of the professionals that we need to make DNA information available to people.
To encourage early testing and diagnosis, Samuel Wiafe founded the Rare Diseases Ghana Initiative, an NGO leading advocacy for people with undiagnosed and genetic disorders.
Families value diagnosis. If they have an accurate diagnosis, they're chasing around stuff, they're running around stuff, their anxiety goes down, they have a certain sense of relief. Even if the lab exists, the cost as well, because who is paying, it becomes the next question.
His NGO has facilitated free laboratory testing for patients with rare genetic disorders through an access program. But the need is still great. Medical laboratory scientist in Accra, Michael Aka, agrees more financial support can make a huge difference.
Even the manufacturers that you speak with will ask you, okay, what are your numbers? What numbers are we expecting? If our numbers are so low, they don't feel too good coming in to come and work with us, as in bringing the analyzers down here.
Rare disease advocates nationwide are calling on the Ghanaian government to support the adoption of the 2021 United Nations resolution for people with rare diseases. This resolution aims for universal health coverage and also ensures that persons like Mark are not left behind when it comes to human rights, education and employment. Reporting for GHOne News, I am Nadima Omar Uthman, Accra.